If you'd like to hear any lore, and I mean any lore whatsoever, check out the Patreon, because even at the $1 tier, your voice will be heard when it comes time every week, like I usually do. Some weeks there are an exception, but like I usually do, I ask a poll, and if you're in the Patreon, your voice is heard choosing this week's lore. Now, because of the different schedule, I chose this week's lore, and this week's lore is on Goodsprinsg, Nevada. It's on the Pioneer Saloon, the Prospector Saloon, from real life and from Fallout New Vegas. Goodsprinsg in Clark County, Nevada, named after Joseph Good in the year 1900. Joseph Good was a cattle rancher, and his cattle used to use a spring near the Springs Mountain. That's where we got the name Goodsprinsg from. At one point, it was Clark County's most productive mining area up until all of the lead, silver, copper, zinc, and gold reserves were depleted. Most of the buildings in town were built during a massive boom triggered by the railroad in 1910 to 1911. This is a point in American history where there was gold up in them there hills, and people wanted to go out and find their own bit of fortune. You could go out there, claim a piece of land. It was just yours as long as you were like white and Protestant, and you had that, and that was who you were. And if you found a little bit of gold, you could trade it, you could start a business, you could do something. That's what like the true American dream is, and not kind of what we have today. But this is a town that has a ton of history, American history, like genuine American history, like blue-collar American history in it, which I'll get into in just a moment. Before 1900, it was a lot of small cabins and tents and a little post office that was in the town. That was really the only thing they had as some sort of a central town, some sort of a central organization. And the Salt Lake City Mining Company helped develop Goodsprinsg Township. By 1913, Goodsprinsg Schoolhouse was built. It is one of the oldest schoolhouses in Clark County, and it may be shut down due to a lack of funding. This is a schoolhouse that is still, as of today, being used. As of everything I could find online, it's being used. And it's 120 years old, but it's a piece of history that's still in the town and it's still functional. When things are built to last, they last. And don't get me wrong, there's probably a ton of restoration projects that have been done to it, but this is one of the oldest schools in Clark County, if not Nevada. Because of World War II, there was also a second boom in the town during the 30s to the 40s, but after the 40s, after the war had ended, a lot of people had left the town once again. Now, just because I think things like the census are super interesting, as of the wiki says, and I get all of my lore on towns and real-life places off of just Wikipedia. I do dip into the Fallout Wiki a little bit, but for this part that I've been reading so far and what I'm about to go into has been off of just regular schmegular Wikipedia. The wiki says, as of the census of 2000, there was 232 people, 107 households, and 63 families. But I Google searched what the population was because that's of 2000, and I went on the census website and it told me like 163 or 167, but it wouldn't tell me like any other information. And then when I just Googled it, it said as of 2020, nobody lived there, which just isn't true. Now, the Pioneer Saloon itself, it's over 100 years old and considered to be one of the oldest saloons in Nevada. Haunted by a ghost that was shot there, there's a bullet hole inside of the building, and there's a little plaque that has a note from the coroner that says how that got there. So this was a time where you could shoot a man and pretty much get away with it. This is probably also the time in history where if you were drunk, they just took your guns away and said, come to the sheriff's office to get them back. Just so you didn't accidentally shoot somebody. Because alcohol in this country have a wild history. Some of the fun things about the saloon itself is it has a memorial to Clark Gable and Carol Lombard. Carol Lombard was on TWA Flight 3 and crashed near the Potosi Mountains on January 16th of 1942. This accident would kill her, but the hotel and the saloon would be used for an HQ for the search party to find her and other debris. Now, I wanted to read a little bit real quick about TWA Flight 3, and this I'm getting, it's the first opening paragraph right off of Wikipedia. TWA Flight 3 was a twin-engine Douglas DC-3-382 Proliner registration NC 1946, operated by Transcontinental and Western Air, or TWA, as a scheduled domestic passenger flight from New York, New York to Burbank, California in the United States, with several stopovers, including Las Vegas, Nevada. On January 16, 1942, at 19:20 Pacific Standard Time, 15 minutes after takeoff from Las Vegas Airport, now Nellis Air Force Base, bound for Burbank, the aircraft was destroyed when it crashed into a sheer cliff on the Potosi Mountain, 32 miles southwest of the airport at an elevation of 7,770 feet, perfect for Vegas, or 2,370 meters above sea level. All 22 people on board, including movie star Carol Lombard, her mother, and 3 crew members died in the crash. The Civilian Aeronautics Board, or the CAB, investigated the incident and determined that the cause was the navigation error by its captain. It's a real place that has real history and is real important. Now, I don't know how true it is, but I watched a news reporting from Nevada, from Vegas or Henderson in Nevada, and they talked about like what that bar is, and apparently Goodsprinsg, the Prospector Saloon, is like a biker bar. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if that's like real facts, but they say in news reporting that it's a biker bar, and there's just like a bunch of people in cosplay, like nerdy looking dudes, just pasty fellas out there, and there's just like bikers hanging out. Now, believe it or not, this feels like one of the only parts of New Vegas that actually doesn't have a ton of lore on it. It feels very much like it's just there, which I guess is kind of the point, that it's just there. It doesn't matter who owns it at this point. It matters that the structure is there and people are using it. And all of my Fallout lore I get off of fallout.fandom.com, the Nukipedia, if you will. The Prospector Saloon is located in Goodsprinsg, Nevada, and 2281 is a small saloon owned by a woman named Trudy. There's some magazines and collectibles. It's very much a tutorial area. It's very much the starting, beginning zone that you can be in. Very much a place where you're like, hey, cool, this is here. I'm learning things about the environment. I'm learning things about the neighborhood. I'm learning things about what goes on in this town. Located in the same geographical location, it is pretty much a spot-on replica, minus a few things here or there. The game and the real-life version both share the shape of the building, the jukebox, the bar and mirror setup, its ceiling design, and the porch entryway. So you can go there. I'm expecting, while I'm there, that I walk in, and I'm just kind of like, oh wow, where is Sunny Smiles? Like, I know exactly what this layout is in my head. It's how I feel about the DC Metro. When I first went to DC after playing Fallout 3 for years, I was like, oh, this makes sense. There's glowing ones over there, Reavers all the way that way, and there's some dead Brotherhood fellas that way. There's some vampires to the south. Inside of the real-life saloon, they actually have a framed copy of Fallout New Vegas that is to commemorate the fact that it's in the game. And from everything I've seen, there's also a 360 setup, so you can play New Vegas. I don't think anyone's like beaten it or anything, but people kind of just walk around the saloon, and it's cool to like be in the saloon and play the saloon part at the saloon. The bar itself is a piece of history within Hollywood for its location. It's also appeared in the Misfits. It's appeared in, which is a movie. It's also appeared in The Twilight Zone, which is, The Twilight Zone, and a movie called Cherry 2000. It's a piece of history. It's a piece of Western history. It's prospecting. It's important. And I get to go celebrate the history of one of my favorite games and just a piece of Americana. A lot of people talk about Americana as if it's just, consumerism and capitalism, and it is at this point, but at one point in time, we had Route 66. That was the American dream. Take that bad boy from Chicago all the way to California or anywhere in between. Now we have the interstate, which just goes left to right, right to left, and south to north and north to south. And if it's even numbers, it goes left to right. And if it's odd numbers, it goes north to south. I don't know why I think that's so neat that I know that, but I just do, and I don't remember who told me. It might have been my dad. But It's a part of American history, and so much of early American history, especially with film, and I think that's really America's number one export is film, that and fast food. It was a lot of places like the Saloon. It was a lot of places in those types of areas where they would set up for film, especially once we left silent film. And silent films were just, they would film 40 of them right next to each other because they didn't have to worry about sound. They just built a set and said, go after it. But, I don't know, 40, but you know what I mean. Like, it's cool that I get to go experience this and see this. I want to watch, like, what episode of I wonder if I've seen it. Whatever episode of The Twilight Zone it is. What I love about the Saloon, too, is when you get there, is that it opens the world up. Like, it sets the stage for the world in such a way that, like, as soon as you see the sign, as soon as you see the Prospector Saloon, the way the Saloon part is lit up sets the stage for, like, this is the world that you're about to enter, that you have entered at this point once you leave Doc Mitchell's place, once you leave his doctor's office, is that it's a world that's been reclaimed, and it's been reclaimed by its people. In the same way that I feel like most apocalypse fiction is like, here's the world reclaimed by plants. The way I think of, like, The Last of Us or Horizons is very much like, it's plants that took over and now it's around these structures. People are the worst weeds because those are the weeds that are persistent no matter how hard you kill them. And the sign that just says Prospector Saloon and the saloon is all lit up even just teases you, just the tiniest taste on your tongue to tease you about what you're about to see as you head north. I hope you guys like this week's lore because that's all I have on the Prospector Saloon for this week's lore. Hey, wasn't that clip great? Wasn't that a whole lot of fun? If you like that, consider listening to the whole podcast of Atomic Radio Hour. We do Fallout lore, but we also do a ton of other fun stuff. On screen right now are a couple of names that I have to thank. These fine folks are part of our Patreon. From the $1 tier to the $10 tier every single week, your voice is heard when I ask a poll concerning the lore. And also at the $10 tier, you can watch the podcast episodes get recorded live. I want to thank these fine folks. I love you, each and every one of you. Thanks for checking us out. Stay tuned for a recommendation for what I think you should watch or YouTube thinks you should watch. And also, subscribe to my channel. Throw it a like. Give it a comment. See you guys soon. Love you.